Today, I've brought you the story of Korea's second highest grossing comedy film, Extreme Job. In this story, a group of police officers try to catch a gangster to save their job. To hide their identities, they end up buying a restaurant which, by mistake, becomes so famous that they forget all about catching the gangster. The story was so funny that I watched it all night and laughed so hard my stomach hurt. So I hope you'll watch the story till the end. At the very beginning of the story, we see a drug mafia sitting with a few of his associates chatting in their hangout spot. Just then, a girl tries to enter the room. This girl is actually a police officer, but the thugs there see her and say, "Hey girl, this isn't a place for kids to eat, go home." They don't take her seriously at all. These thugs had no idea that the girl had come with her entire team to catch them. The head of that police team was Captain Ko, who was now trying to enter through the window to catch the druggies. But poor Captain Ko got stuck in the window frame in such a way that it took him a long time to get inside. Finally, when Captain Ko gets in, he calls his team to come in as well. Hearing this, the thug jumps out the window and tries to escape. Seeing this, the police chase after him. But by then, the thug tries to escape by stealing a car. However, the car's owner throws him out of the car. Officer Yoon, a female police officer, chases after the thug, and just then, Officer Ma arrives on his scooter. Officer Ma somehow manages to catch the thug, but when he tries to arrest him, he realizes he forgot to bring handcuffs. At that moment, the thug shocks him and tries to escape, but then the thug gets into an accident with a bus and gets injured. Not only that, but about 15 or 16 cars also get into accidents. Seeing this, their senior officer calls them all together and says, "You caused accidents with 15 or 16 cars just to catch one skeleton-thin thug. Before this, you guys were even afraid to break a window." The officers reply, "Sir, the last car was already wrecked. We did not do anything." Hearing all this, their senior officer gives a promotion to another officer from their group, Officer Choi. And Officer Ko and his team lose their job. Not only did they lose their job, but today they also find out that one of their team members had used the mission funds to go gambling. Over this issue, Officer Ko starts fighting with his colleagues. But just then, Officer Choi arrives and, to celebrate his promotion, invites Officer Ko and his team out for a meal. That night, during dinner, Officer Choi gives him one last offer to save his job. He promises that if Mr. Ko and his team can catch Korea's notorious drug mafia, Mube, they will be promoted. In the end, to save their jobs, Officer Ko and his team start keeping an eye on the gangster in various ways. But while they are watching, a few people mistake Captain Ko's new team member, Joy, for a day laborer and take him away to work for 301. Before they can get out of one mess, a woman calls the police to report them, thinking Officer Ma is peeping into her window from the neighboring roof. Although Officer Ma was actually keeping an eye on the criminals, the police start questioning them before he can explain. In front of the woman, they cannot reveal their identities to the police. The woman keeps cursing and scolding them. But just then, they spot a few members of gangster Moobe's crew. Anyway, the police officers manage to identify themselves separately and leave the scene. Now, they all sit in a chicken restaurant waiting for the drug mafia. They do not even have enough money to eat properly since their colleague had gambled away all the mission fund. They start fighting about this again, but just then they spot gangster Mube. Now they even have Moobe's address, so they start planning how to get into Moobe's house. But there was only one way in, by becoming delivery boys. So they decide that from tomorrow, they will stay at this restaurant, and if Mube ever places an order, they will deliver the food to his house and get inside. But just then, the restaurant owner tells them that he is selling the restaurant tomorrow because no one actually comes there to eat chicken. Hearing this, the new officer, Joy, shouts that he wants to buy the restaurant because he does not want to lose track of Moob at any cost. But Captain Ko is completely against the idea. Hearing this, Joy shouts, "I have been saving money for a year to get married. Even if I have to use that money, I will buy this restaurant. For my captain, I will postpone my wedding by a year." With all this emotional blackmail, they convince the captain to buy the restaurant. Meanwhile, when the captain returns home, he finds his wife is quite angry with him because he has not taken her out in a long time. He doesn't even give her any nice gift. Hearing his wife's complaints, the captain, annoyed, takes his daughter out to eat. But while sitting in the restaurant and listening to his daughter, the captain realizes that he really does need a promotion because it's very hard to live well without money. So the next day, he uses all the money he had saved up to buy that chicken restaurant. He tells his team that if they can't catch Mube, they would have had to quit detective work and open a chicken shop anyway. So basically, they just got a head start on it. After that, they all start keeping an eye on the gangster in various ways. Several days go by like this, watching and waiting. Not only do they fail to get any information about the gangster, but instead, just by hearing the sounds of fights among the gangster's men, they start betting on who will die and who will survive. But as the restaurant is open, people gradually start coming in. And to keep up their investigation, they are forced to actually run the restaurant. While cooking chicken, they realize that Officer Ma is the best at making chicken among them. So they appoint Officer Ma as the head chef of the restaurant. She even creates a special sauce that leaves every customer who eats their chicken absolutely amazed. Right after this, their restaurant becomes extremely famous in the area. Now they barely have any time for investigation because the restaurant is always packed with customers. In just 1 week, they earn more money than they would have made in a whole year working as police officers. Amidst all this busyness, only one officer named Yang keeps an eye on the gangsters. But things get so hectic that eventually, even Yang, along with everyone else, forgets their real job and gets caught up in cooking chicken. Their reputation spreads so widely that 2 people come wanting to make a documentary about their restaurant, but they throw them out of the restaurant. After several months pass like this, one day Yang finally spots the gangster, but without any help from his team, he tries to catch the gangster alone. Because he is alone, Mube slips away from him that day. Frustrated, Yang comes back to his team and says, "Do you guys even know how hard it is to do duty alone?" Hearing this, Officer Ma says, "Do you have any idea how hard it is to cut and fry chicken all day long? My hands get cut, my hands get burned. Do you even understand how painful all this is?" Hearing this, Officer Joy replies to her, "Do you have any idea how hard it is to chop 4 sacks of onions and 15 kilos of garlic?" And Yun says, "You people who work outside on duty will never understand how hard it is to clean the same table over and over all day." Hearing such things from his colleagues, Young, who was already frustrated, falls into a real depression. They all became so busy with their own petty concerns that they completely forgot about their real job, catching the drug mafia. Meanwhile, that terrifying mafia boss kept killing people and supplying drugs as he pleased. Captain Ko, however, didn't seem to care about any of this, and so after several months passed without any progress in the investigation, Captain Ko's senior called them in and gave them a severe scolding. But just then, Captain Ko received a phone call. As soon as he got the call, they all rushed back to their hotel and quickly started preparing a chicken dish, because today that gangster Mube had ordered chicken from them. They returned to their work and with renewed energy went to the gangster's house to catch him. But when they got there, they found out that the gangster had actually moved out of that house to another address just the day before. After this incident, Captain Ko became extremely disappointed. They realized that they might now be suspended from their job. The fear of suspension drove Captain Ko almost mad. He started to feel as if he was dying forever. After all this drama, when they were already in so much trouble, those same journalists whom they had thrown out of the restaurant came back and made a negative documentary about their restaurant. On TV, it was shown that Captain Ko's restaurant actually served food ordered from another restaurant to their customers. There were even accusations that they didn't maintain cleanliness while preparing chicken. After their business was ruined, when Officer Cho met with Captain Ko, he fired him from his job that very day. Having lost everything, Captain Ko went home and sat in front of his wife, terrified and anxious. But that day, his wife told him how worried she had been for him all this time while he was away from home. She said she didn't care whether he had a job or not. All she wanted was to have Captain Ko for herself. Learning all this, Captain Ko was overwhelmed with happiness and sat crying in front of his wife. So now, Captain Ko planned to start everything anew for his wife. He was sitting in the restaurant with his colleagues making plans. But just then, a man came in and told them that he wanted to invest money in their restaurant. He even wanted wanted to open branches of their restaurant all over the country. Hearing all this and seeing the investors' money, they all agreed to the deal. But the foolish police officers didn't know that this investor was actually Mube, the drug mafia's personal lawyer. In reality, Mube invested in their restaurant because he wanted to open branches all over the country and use the restaurant as a front to spread his drug business nationwide. And according to his plan, that's exactly what Mube started doing. To successfully expand his operation across the country, Mube teamed up with his old partner Chang. In this way, Mube's business flourished. However, in different parts of the country, Captain Ko's restaurant branches were actually run by various thugs and addicts. As a result, the reputation of Captain Ko's restaurant began to deteriorate. After learning all this, Captain Ko decided to keep an eye on all his restaurant branches across the country. With his team, Captain Ko started investigating his other restaurants like a true police officer. During the investigation, they discovered that drugs were being bought and sold behind the facade of the restaurant. Meanwhile, one night, Officer Ma, while investigating, got caught up in gambling with some gangsters. While chatting, he accidentally let slip that he was a police officer. The gangsters then beat him up and took him captive. Not only that, the next morning at another branch, Officer Joy accidentally tasted some of the drugs lying around and passed out. At that moment, Captain Ko prepared to catch the gangster who was selling these dangerous drugs. But then they realized that Officer Ma was in the hands of the gangsters. Officer Yoon used her husband tracker app to find Officer Ma's location. Now, the whole team set out to rescue Ma from the gangsters. Since they were no longer police officers, they had no weapons or support from the police force. On the other hand, promoted Officer Choi had managed to find the gangsters' hideout through his own investigation. When he and his team went to catch them, they were beaten badly by the gangsters and left half dead. But fortunately, once again, a bus crashed into the gangster's car. Meanwhile, Captain Ko wanted to rescue Ma as quickly as possible. In fact, he wasn't going to save Ma but rather to save the gangsters from Ma, because despite his goofy appearance, Ma was actually a national judo champion. And that's exactly what Officer Ma did. He beat up all the gangsters around him, climbed onto a truck that was smuggling drugs, and made his way to Mube's main hideout. There, Officer Ma tried to SMS his location to the team, but by mistake, instead of writing Mube's hideout, he wrote military base. Meanwhile, a huge drug deal was about to go down between gangster Mube and his partner Chang. To scare them, Officer Ma tried to play a police siren on his phone, but accidentally played an ambulance siren instead. Anyway, he quickly corrected his mistake and played the police siren. Hearing the police siren, the two gangs started suspecting each other and began fighting among themselves. In the midst of the chaos, using the husband tracker app, Captain Ko's team finally found Officer Ma. They immediately sent their location to Officer Choi for backup, but Officer Choi knew that defeating Captain Ko's 5-person team wasn't so easy. Among these seemingly clueless people, Officer Ma was a national judo champion. Young was a former army commando for whom killing was child's play. Yoon was a professional martial artist. The newest member, Joy, was an experienced baseball player who couldn't feel pain. And Captain Ko himself was known as the zombie in the police department, because no matter how many times he'd been attacked in the past 20 years, he'd always survived somehow. Now together, they started beating up the thugs en masse. As Captain Ko chased after gangster Mube, he was slightly injured by one of the gangster's bullets. Meanwhile, Young tied up the remaining thugs and took them captive. Yoon took down the female gangster with Mube, clearing the way for Captain Ko to catch the gangster. By then, Mube tried to escape by boat, but Captain Ko jumped onto the boat to catch him and a fierce fight broke out between them. But Mube couldn't manage to land a solid blow on Captain Ko. Now, Mube finally understood why the police called Captain Ko the zombie. Anyway, by the time Officer Choi arrived with backup to help Captain Ko's team, Captain's crew had already captured all of the gangsters' thugs. Seeing this, Officer Choi couldn't do anything except call an ambulance for them. Now we see Officer Joy so impressed by Captain's heroism that he decides to make Captain his father. And here, Officer Ma was actually Yoon's husband. Yoon, suspecting her husband had put a tracker on him. Afterward, they all sat together at the chicken restaurant, celebrating their capture of the gangster by treating everyone. Finally, the entire police department awarded Captain and his team with a state honor and promotion, something they had all been waiting for a long time. And with that, today's story comes to an end. Watching this story, I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. As the second highest grossing film in Korea, this movie was truly amazing. If you enjoyed the story, please give it a like and leave a comment if you have anything to say. That's all for today.